There we go.
So I'm trying to build muscle. Like I'm trying to go to the gym and I'm always confused with I bought the perfect aminos.
hmm
Do I take those before or after the workout?
Ooh, so we were talking about this and we were playing with the idea that on the days that you were going to stop your feeding window because you were working out a little bit later, that you were going to do your aminos post.
After the workout. Okay.
Yeah.
But then, so can I take the aminos even on the days that I'm not eating anything, or should I just not take them?
Ooh, we could see how your body responds, but on the days that you're not eating, you technically, most people can during that fasting window, they can take the aminos. You could see your responsiveness. So they talk about this on the podcast about people's responsiveness to protein, insulin, and to amino acids. So most people don't have a responsiveness like to where it would take them out of ketosis. You may see a little tiny bump up in your glucose, but we shouldn't see it take you out of that 0.5. It should still keep you above that range, especially in a fasted state.
But see, that's when I'm confused. When we talk about fast, it's
hmm
like, so when I'm doing eating window, and
hmm
let's say I finish it at, I don't know, at 3 p.m., can I still take the aminos at 7 p.m.?
Yeah, because you work out
Yeah.
evening time, right?
Yes.
Yeah, so we were going to talk about doing your aminos in the evening. Yeah.
Okay. And then when we do this water fast, I should
hmm
not do the aminos,
That
or
and
it will
that's what I was saying
depend.
during a longer fast like that, typically you could take aminos and it wouldn't take you out, but
Okay.
you could see how your ketones responded. If they, you could go 24 hours in and you could take your aminos and if you I wouldn't foresee that it would take you completely out of ketosis. You may see a little jump up in your glucose, but I wouldn't see much.
Okay. And then
Yeah.
hopefully the last question.
That's
Can
fine.
I do coconut oil with coffee when I do the window eating? Like, let's say I
Yep.
finish my last meal at 3 p.m., but I'm craving something hot at 7 p.m. Can I
hmm
do a coffee with coconut oil, or the coconut oil is not?
Question, can you go to sleep?
I do.
Well, first of all, I was like, I used to be that person. For some reason, in my older age, I am so sensitive. It's like if I have coffee after 11, I'm gonna be having questionable sleep that night. But yeah, there you could, but there's a couple different like mushroom coffee drinks that are non-caffeinated too, just in case it's gonna pop you out. But there's one called Bliss, and then there's like Mud Water, and another brand called Four Sigmatic. They have like caffeinated, non-caffeinated versions, and they're mushroom cheese. They're kind of chicory blends. They taste like coffee, and then you could put coconut oil in them. But yeah, you could do even if you want to do some type of golden milk tea where it was like, curcumin, turmeric, coconut milk, and a little bit of coconut oil type thing, that would be fine too. Because none of that's going to take you out of ketosis.
And that can be any time in the day.
hmm
Like that won't count as my meal.
Not really, nope.
Okay. And for the fast that we're doing now, can I drink coconut milk?
So typically, yeah, because it's not going to give you excess protein, it's not going to give you any excess sugars, it's just going to have good oils. And I always recommend that if you're having an issue, like a teaspoon or tablespoon of MCT oil, pickle juice, any of that to try to keep you sustained is absolutely fine.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, some of those warm beverages can be really nice. I play around with different things like cinnamon tea, milk thistle tea, um, nettle tea. Nettle tea really helps appetite. Any of those types of teas are really good. I play with a lot of golden milk tea. So any of those are absolutely fine.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Um, and Katrina, I didn't ask you how your week went. I don't know if you played with with Sheila and her.
I mean, I just struggle with food in general, and I mean, there's times where I can be on track and times that I'm not. I didn't do a very good job of kind of planning my days. I did do like one 24-hour fast
Hmm.
this past week. It's hard because I really need to drop some weight too. So because we're not fasting until April, I'm trying to just get one of every fat in.
Hmm.
Um, and still trying to eat in an eating window.
Hmm.
Not successful every day. I've been in the habit of snacking in the evening, but I'm working on it. So,
Okay. Yeah, work in progress. Yeah, absolutely. And thinking of the snacking in the evening, always think like, with dinner, did you have enough protein? Did you have enough fat? And that's the question I always want to ask myself if I'm getting to the where I'm wanting to snack. I always think back like I'm like, okay, did I put enough in? And then when I think about my next meal, I'm thinking about putting more in at that dinner wheel because typically most of the time when you're really satiated with good fats and good protein, you don't really have that snack need post. So just question that. And is it also a place where you could put, as we were just talking about the beverages, like hot beverage, could we put some hot beverage with a good oil in it that might keep you from grabbing snacky stuff, right?
yeah.
So that's something that might be, of value of there and playing around with some of these different types of teas and stuff. I've I trying to think of the brand what I was using. I think is Laird's. They have like this Laird's creamer and but it's a mushroom blend and they have one that's like a mint chocolate that I really like that I put in my coffee, but you can also make it into like a cocoa if you wanted. Like you could do it into like almost like a hot chocolate type deal. And you could put some good oil, some good coconut oil, but that might be something really nice post dinner
How do you spell
with
that? Is
Laird,
it like
Laird, and I can put that,
L-A-I-R? Okay.
yeah, I can put that in a chat too.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah,
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 that's actually a good idea. Because sometimes I do like the hot element, but I do that in the morning. But it might be
yeah,
helpful to do that in the evening when I
yeah.
want it. And it's not that I'm hungry. I
Yeah,
want
I'll
some.
put the chocolate mint element tea in the Laird's, mushroom chocolate mint, and it's super yummy. So that would be something that would feel like dessert, but it would also give you some good minerals and good adaptogens for sleep and kind of calm the system.
So is layered a mushroom?
So Laird is a brand, like it's a brand, and they have different mushroom like coffees, teas,
Okay.
adaptogenic herbs, and they do one that's like a matcha, and they do one that's like a golden milk, and then they have a bunch of different flavors when it comes to, whether it be like hot cocoa, they have the chocolate mint one, they have a
Okay.
vanilla. So yeah, you can play with a bunch of different ones of those.
That's good.
And
Sounds
Yeah.
then and then I know last week we had kind of talked about with all of our hiking and stuff, was trying not to do the 4-2-1. Sorry,
Hmm.
can't add.
Yeah.
Um, but I guess depending on the days of the hike, and maybe I don't know, maybe I want to try to do two fasting days just because I don't know. Sometimes it
You
helps
can,
me the
yeah,
food,
you
but I
can
don't know if that's too stressful.
Yeah, you can play with it if you feel like it's right, and you can squeeze it in your windows with your hikes, go for it. And but if you feel like it's too much, you could stick with like a 511. So good.
Yes.
All right, beautiful. Okay, so I'm going to talk with you guys about fasting and fasting options. So there is an option for everyone, and it doesn't matter where you're at and where you believe you're at, you're more prepared than you think. That's the first thing I'm going to tell you. Let me just move some screens around here. Oh, okay. Okay, so we're preparing, not kind of, we are preparing for our 5-day water fast. And I really do want you guys to choose a day like that you're going to start where you're going to be successful. So that's why, Sheila and Katrina are going to start later. Rod, he is away right now, and he did kind of a fast before he left, which was unprovoked. But he'll do another one when he comes back. And Whitney's going to start. She's not here tonight because she's getting a massage. Lucky her. But anyways, we are going to start on the day that is best for us. This is our kind of prescribed week, but if it doesn't work for you, we can kind of shift it. And oh, come on. Where are you going? Maybe. There we go. Okay. So we talked about our 4-2-1 and how we felt there, carbs versus protein. And now we're going to talk about our 7 reasons of why we're going to fast. And this is really important for us to remember as we go into the fast, because sometimes we forget why we're doing this. And really we've really beat the dead horse of like talking about autophagy and getting rid of bad cells and bad DNA, and really creating that stem cell surge for replacing good cells. And remember, the stem cells is an undifferentiated cell. It can become any cell in the body, and it's going to go to the area that needs most repair. And we're going to talk about this a little bit further about how we can have feelings in the body that could come up, old injuries, or even organs that are telling us that they're going to receive those cells. But these kind of feelings can come up while we fast, which is kind of cool to experience and put together of like, oh, I'm fasting. I have this weird kidney sensation, but my stem cells are going to that area to help heal it. So we're going to increase ketones during this process. And remember that ketones burn cleaner, they activate stem cells, they help heal the brain, and they reset the microbiome. We're going to have an energy diversion. So instead of using energy to break down food, we're going to use that energy to help heal the cells. And this is a time as we start to have lower cellular inflammation and healed cells that we're going to optimize hormone, and will increase growth hormone during the first part of this. And then as we start to refeed, we'll get another surge of growth hormone. This is going to reset DNA and turn on sirtuin genes, which are our longevity genes, and turn off bad old cells that are causing DNA replication in a poor way, and resetting the microbiome so we can actually starve down old bacteria within the gut and then reset good microbiome diversity as we go through this. We can reset a microbiome within 5 days. And we've proven that over and over again. So going back to your intention, and this could have slightly altered. So I always like you guys to go back to your intention and alter it if you feel like there's any additions or tweaks that you want to make to it. But we want to know what our intention is and things we want to focus on, because if things get difficult during this process, you're kind of going back to why am I doing this? It's that gentle reminder of this is what we want, and we're going to create the trajectory for our body to follow. So we have different types of fast that we can follow during this week. And first thing I'm going to talk about is the partial fast. And you could always start or finish with a partial fast. And sometimes people want to start out with a water fast, and maybe they get, 48 hours in and they want to break to a partial. That is absolutely okay. You have not destroyed any of the positive change you have created. You're just adding to it. So don't worry if you break to a partial. I've done this a lot where I've even started in a partial and went into a water. Sometimes my system really likes that, and it helps me kind of, I don't know, gear up, I guess, so to speak. But when we're looking at the caloric intake, you can kind of see that approximate weight. And specific for women, if we're like, let's say we're 150 pounds, we're about 700 calories. Men can usually go up to about 900. I know men, but we can, if you're over 200 pounds or more, you can be around 1,000 calories roughly. And then it's really more about protein intake. So not really exceeding that 15 to 20 grams of protein, because that's when autophagy starts to shut down. And foods are going to be no animal protein during this time because it'll typically take you over that 15 to 20 grams. So really staying with fats, fibers, fruits, and vegetables. And during this time, we can have things in a partial, like there's Prolon smoothies, but there's basically these kind of fat bomb smoothies that we can have, MCT oils, broths. You can have soups, vegetable-based soups. Those are all good things during this time. And then we can do this, which I have created a DIY for this, so a do-it-yourself fasting mimicking, which mimics the kind of Prolon. There is a Prolon kit that is available to anybody that wants one, but I think the DIY is pretty easy to use, and then we can just calculate with MyFitnessPal or Carb Manager or something like that, the macros of this, just to make sure we're keeping our protein, within that range. And then during a partial, we can have gentle exercise, things like walks and yoga. Those are really permitted during this time. And then when we're looking at the 4 basic categories of a partial fast, you're looking at fats. So that's anything like your coconut oils, butters, avocado oil, ghee, flax. And then looking at your low glycemic fruits. And then fibers, things like nuts, seeds, and then chia, hemp, raw nuts, macadamia. Vegetables, these are going to be all your kind of leafy greens, and you could have, carrots, sweet potato, squash. I'm not really limiting carbohydrates on this. Again, we're just staying within caloric perimeters and protein kilometers. Another way of doing a fast is we could change your fasting style. So we could extend intermittent fasting. So let's say you've gotten really good at 16-hour fasts. You're a little scared to do a 5-day water fast. You could commit to doing, say, an 18-hour fast each day. So we're kind of pushing that window and really keeping that carb under 15 grams of protein. And then, sorry, I meant to say 15 grams of carbohydrates. And we can also play with a fasting ladder, where during the week, if we wanted to kind of play with your fasting window, so say you're around 16, you're a little nervous to do an extended water fast, we could do a 16-hour, an 18-hour, a 20-hour, 24, and a 36, and just to increase you each day. And I won't give you, you have your regular kind of, if you're having one meal a day, basically, I'm not really going to restrict your carb, zero protein during that time. You're having one meal, and then extending out to a 36 hours. So that's something that we could play with as well if you were a little bit nervous about taking a water fast. And then the other option is doing one meal a day each day. So, going dinner to dinner each day of the week, that would be another way of extending the intermittent fast during this week. And so you're still going to get benefits of autophagy, because anything over that 17 hours starts to create autophagy. You're going to get deeper ketones during this time. And this is just a way that we could do the fasting week if the partial fast or the water fast seemed unattainable at this point. So what to expect during the water fast? So the body is in a transitioning from glucose to ketones for fuel. And day 2 is where you're really going to start to see those elevated ketones and this is where you're going to start to get a little bit more brain clarity. You're going to start to see a decrease in inflammation, and the microbiome is starting to get some healing during this time. Day 3 is where you're going to really see high autophagy. These are going to be high ketone numbers during this time. You're going to actually start to feel a little energetic boost during this day. And you're going to see something that you can start to feel is you actually get a dopamine and a serotonin surge. So mentally, you start to feel really bright. Day 4, this is where we get even more energy. You might, some people, just depending on how many times they've done a fast, sometimes day 4 can be lower on the energy. But people who've done a lot more fasting will start to really see even maybe like where they might not need to sleep as much, feeling just as much energy and not having to sleep as long. And you're going to be completely keto adapted. This is where we might see some max GKI during this time, which is that 1-to-1 ratio. And then day 5, this is where we get that stem cell production. We're going to be forcing adaptation, and we're going to be thinking about where our refeeding is going. Some people on day 5 might decide, do I want to extend from here or do I want to break at this point? Usually during your first one, you're like, I've had enough, I am done. There are people who have done it a little bit longer, question, could I go a little bit longer? Interestingly enough, in that podcast that I was talking to you guys about, they were talking about fasting in long durations, and they were saying that people that are slightly on the more obese side actually could fast for 40 days with the fat that is available on the body, that it would be if not of detriment if we were doing the right, minerals, electrolytes, water, and things like that, that it really wouldn't be of detriment to the body. So it's quite interesting. I grew up at a time where 7 days and 7 nights, everyone was going to die if they fast that long. So it's interesting to see the transition during that. So during the first day, you can expect to feel a little bit weak and tired, but all of you guys have experienced the 1-day fast. So most of you that are here just said that you did very well during this time, but you can expect you could feel a little bit weak, tired, brain fog during this time. We may see some tongue changes. We talked about that before, about like maybe some white, yellow, even black coming through the tongue over 24 hours to 48 hours when you're detoxing. The first 2 to 3 days, the blood glucose will drop and your body will start to make more ketones. So you don't expect too much on day 1. You're going to start to see those ketones will really start day 2, day 3. And then if you're not as fat adapted, you may feel a little bit of shakiness, a little hangry, headache, nausea. That can be typical. Most of you are pretty fat adapted, so I don't expect too much of that. We can see rashes maybe around day like 48 hours. And this is really more if we have some detox that's going on within the body. And Epsom salts can be really beneficial to help relieve some of this. We can also talk about coffee enemas, which could be really helpful, but I don't typically see rashes within day 1. It's usually around day 2, 3, something like that. And then you could have weird sensations kind of coming up in the body as stem cells are being recruited. So we kind of touched on this a little bit about supplement, not supplement, and this can be a debatable topic. When there's purists, non-purists, and this is what I like to say, if it's a water-soluble vitamin, it's usually pretty easy on the system. So things like B vitamins, any minerals. If minerals don't make you sick when you take them, you can take them. But I don't try to push minerals too much because they usually tend to make people nauseous. And I don't typically have people do things like fish oils or iron. Let's see. things that I'm okay with you taking. So we kind of talked about water soluble vitamins, vitamin C, magnesium, hydrogen water, adaptogenic herbs, things like Shishandra, lion's mane, any of those kind of mushroom type herbs, those are absolutely fine. And then binders, clays, charcoals, chlorellas, humic, fulvic acids. Binders will help bind on to toxins that are coming out from your fat tissue. So as we're mobilizing that fat tissue, we're going to expel more toxins into the bloodstream, and those things can make you feel a little bit more sick. So using binders can help clear those out of your body. So I'm great with using binders. And one way, if you're worried about a supplement, should I take it? Should I not take it? Things we can look for is, do you have a stress response? And that could be looking at heart rate. Do we see the heart rate increase by 10 beats per minute? Or do we see the blood pressure rise or lower by 10? Do we see any change in your blood glucose by usually 10, or a drop of ketones of 0.2? So those are all ways that you can see if you're getting a stress response from the supplements that you're taking. So tips for day one, but this can be actually throughout. Many people ask me, like, how much water should I drink? And really drink when you're thirsty. And I don't want you to feel like you're chugging all day or you feel waterlogged, something like that. It really is, if you're thirsty, drink. And you can add sea salt to your water. This can help curb nausea, appetite, and help your digestive system. Avoid most supplements unless we've talked about them. And we want to, so you can absolutely have coffee or tea. There are some people that want to be really, really strict with the water fast, and you can absolutely take out coffee and tea. I usually will say take coffee and tea out caffeinated if you get a stress response from the coffee or the tea. So if you're not getting a stress response, you can absolutely use it. And then be careful with too hot or too cold of showers. It's really, as you start to get deeper into the fast, you can get stress response from any type of stressors. So too hot of water, too cold. This isn't a time that I'm going to tell you to go get into a cryo, into a cold plunge, or go into a sauna. Really gentle sauna could be okay, like say like 10 minutes, but I don't want it to be excessively hot because it can raise your cortisol and raise your glucose. And then coffee enemas, they're not absolutely necessary, but they can be helpful, especially if we're experiencing some detox reactions. This helps mobilize the liver and the bile within the gallbladder, and helping to kind of move toxins out of the body. And we just don't want to be overcomplicated or overthink things. So sometimes if I feel hungry and I'm also craving salt, I'll do something like pickle juice, which is so satisfying. But just listen to those listen to your intuition and what your body is telling you. So it's telling you it wants salt. Let's think about, okay, what is some salty thing that I can do? Or if it's telling you that it's thirsty, then drink. You know what I mean? If you need to use some element tea, something like that, all of those things are really, really helpful.
Maria, going back to the coffee enemas, if you don't have a gallbladder, is that still something that's helpful or not?
It can be, yeah, because your liver, so you still emit 2 liters of bile a day, and it helps to force your liver to push the bile out. And the liver, as we know, is one of the biggest filters in the body, and it's the most upstream filter. And if we tell it to release the bile, it's going to release toxin out of the liver. So it actually helps to mobilize.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Good question. So we could be a little bit more hungry and irritable on day 2, just because you're tapping lower glycogen storage, and we're forcing the adaptation of the ketones, and we're playing with that, telling our body it has to go a bit deeper into those ketones. So during that time, it could be a little bit more difficult. We could see a little bit of brain fog during this time. Using fast tonic or some like hydrogen water can be really helpful. Ketones, like exogenous ketones, can be really helpful for if there's any increasing brain fog during this time. So those are little tips of kind of getting through if you don't feel like your brain is quite picking up those ketones quite yet and you feel you need to be a little bit more on point. And then you could lack a little more energy. Don't feel like you need to drive through that. Really kind of allow yourself to lay low if you're not quite spry and up to, taking on the world during this time. And then day 2, we still really want to look back at our intentions, because this when things get difficult, this is like, do I decide to quit? Do I decide to break? What's the, going back to the intention is really important. Writing the intentions forward, maybe telling someone, we talked about distracting ourselves with listening to podcasts and other things about fasting that can really reiterate why we're doing what we're doing, and really conserving energy and resting. Don't feel like you need to do too much during this day. And testing, and definitely not hiking a mountain during day 2. Testing your ketones and looking for that max autophagy. You really may not see this till day 3, but we're really just trying to see where our body is going, and you're probably going to see a higher rise of ketones than you've seen to this point. And then if you're experiencing any symptoms, really try electrolytes. You could take some extra magnesium. Those can be really helpful to kind of get you through this period. And then if the symptoms are really intense, you really might need the fasting trio with the binders and the fast tonic to get you through that. Okay, so during day 3, this is when we get dopamine, and we all love dopamine. And autophagy starts to be in really high gear. This is where you'll see that GKI being up to more to that, towards that 1-to-1. This is where we really can start to see those past conditions where we might have injuries. We're diverting that energy towards those areas for healing. So we may start to feel some twinges in the body on this day. Ketones are really down-regulated inflammation. You'll see that your rings are fitting differently. You really shouldn't, the headaches, any type of shakiness, nausea, that stuff really is subsided at this point. And the bacteria are resetting. And even if anybody with a gut issue, if I could get them just to 72 hours to repair their gut, that would be ideal. Hormone optimization, really, this is the point where we start to decrease that cellular inflammation and hormones are starting to talk to each other better. You may feel colder during this time, and your body is diverting energy away from staying warm because it's lacking caloric drive. So it's like, okay, I'm not going to quite keep you warm because I'm trying to keep all the other systems going. So you really can feel this colder where it's hard to get warm. So you may find that you need a jacket, or you may need a little, heater or something like that. Hot baths during this time are really good. I'm the person that can get super, super cold. So day 4, this is where we get that rise of serotonin. And serotonin is a bit more of a drive versus dopamine is more of like a feel good, like everything is really good. And serotonin is like, let's go and get stuff done. And so this is where we might see that a little bit more of that energy diversion, where you want to go clean something. You may not be able to sleep as long, but you still feel rested. And we're still driving autophagy. We're still seeing that glucose low but stabilize. And we're starting to see, ketones are getting more towards that GKI. You really shouldn't have a lot of hunger or cravings during this point. And the irritability should be very limited at this point. What if your glucose has not dropped by day 4? So this is information for us, because that's going to tell us that we've got some type of toxin on board. And this could be anything from heavy metals to chemicals to molds, viral loads. All of these things are stored in the body. And when we're trying to upregulate fat tissue, if the body does not want to release that because it's a protective way to try to keep you from getting it, it's not going to give you those ketones, right? Because if it has to mobilize that fat and give you that toxin, then it's going to try to help protect you. So that kind of gives us this information. Do we need to do a deeper dive into toxic load, toxic burden, so that we can help you get deeper into ketosis and get the body to convert? And again, that's all about information and letting us know that that is our next step and that's what we need to do. So the body is trying to find glucose in any way that it can. We are trying not to let it break down muscle. And if it's not able to upregulate that fat for fuel, we'll see that glucose start to rise during that time, and it's not going to drop down because it's using that muscle because it can't use fat because toxins are not allowing it to let go of the fat. And bad cells don't adapt. So each time we create a fasted state, they can't survive, and healing takes time. So maybe if I don't see the glucose, if I see glucose rising and I see ketones not really rising, I'm going to tell you to break. But it's not that we didn't do a service to the cells, because we've already created a whole bunch of bad cells to drop off, but the body's not yet ready to do the rest of the 5-day. So it's something we would break to maybe a partial fast, help serve the muscle so we don't lose too much muscle, and then we come back and we do it again. And so each time we do it, we fix the cell, we get lower and lower cellular inflammation, we get less toxins within the body, and maybe we include some other type of resources to help kind of mobilize those toxins. And this is going to be the really telltale point of, do we have toxins on board that we have to mitigate? So on day 5, stem cell production is in high gear, and ketones may begin to drop a little bit. Glucose may rise just a little bit, but it's not that the ketones need to continue to rise. They're just very, very efficient at this point, and we don't need more of them to maintain the GKI. So you may see that little shift right here, and you're going to start to get a massive growth hormone rise on this day. And when you refeed, you're going to get massive autophagy, mass growth hormone. When we fast, breaking the fast is the most important part. We want to refeed that bacteria within our gut with the best stuff possible. So we don't want to just grab a hamburger and fries. We want to do this very systematically. It'll also make you probably sick if you were to do that, so I don't recommend it. Those of you who've tried that, you tell me every time, you're like, oh my God, why did I do that? So if you're partial fasting, we can usually get away with breaking a bit easier and a bit quicker. But if you're water fasting, you really want to be very, very diligent about doing it in a systematic way. And I've laid it out in your book, but we're going to put very basic foods in. We're going to think about that ketobiotic meal at that very first meal. And so if we had like an avocado with some sauerkraut and some hemp seeds, anything that's really easily to digest. I make this like salad smoothie, which I've given you guys the recipe for my salad smoothie, but that's something very easy to digest. And you can start with like a little bit of bone broth, let it sit for half an hour to an hour, and then add in a salad smoothie or add in like the avocado and the sauerkraut. Very easy to digest. I don't want raw foods. I want to be either cooked veggies or like a salad smoothie. And then we can start to add in more foods after that point. If you want to extend, when you get to day 5, if you want to extend, reach out to me and let me know where you're at. And I want to know like where your ketones are and things like that. And then I'll best support you on the opposite side when you want to break. So I'm okay with anybody that wants to extend. I just want to be notified so I can kind of assist you during that period. I just don't want anybody to get into any dangerous stuff. Had one of my oldie but goodies who's been here for a long time, and he recently just did a 7-day fast, unbeknownst to me, and then put himself into atrial fibrillation, which he has a history of, but he got himself a bit too dehydrated, which stimulated the whole cascade of him doing that. So always let me know if you want to extend, and I can help assist you in that. So sample of refeeding. So you can see we've got, simple bone broth, soft cooked veggies. So let's just say like, carrots or zucchini. And then we can do things like green juices, organic berries, avocados. And then we'll start to add in the fermented foods, colostrum, coconut yogurt, kefirs, cottage cheese, anything probiotic. And then we can add in good oils, and then we can start to add in day 2 maybe some unpasteurized eggs, and then day 3 we can start to add back in some meat products. So we don't want to do that too much too soon. Meats are a bit harder for our body to process, so we don't want to put those in right from the very, very start. The reasons why you might not feel well, you might have low electrolytes. That's usually a big one that happens for people. Also, not being fully fat adapted. And that just tells us we might need to spend more time in week 4 and 5 doing the 5-1-1 and the 4-2-1, and just getting our body to adapt with that mitochondrial fitness. So in and out of ketosis a little bit easier. And then if we're still not fat adapted, even though we've been following the protocol, goes back to toxicity. So we may need to figure out more what your toxic burden is and start to add in the fasting trio, or getting a little bit deeper into a detox protocol. So this is what the fasting trio looks like. There's a link in the Kajabi portal, but Fast Tonic is your hydrogen water, Cyto Detox. And if you have like a little hydrogen water maker, a lot of people have those now, the hydrogen water bottles, you could displace the Fast Tonic for hydrogen water. That's totally fine. And Cyto Detox is a chelator, helps things mobilize out of your fat tissue, and Binder helps you to clear them out of the system like a giant broom putting it into the dustpan. So instead of hoping for the magic bullet that doesn't exist, let's look at the facts. So everything, your metabolism, daily energy, aging, pain, sleep, hormones, immunity, all come down to cellular energy and cellular inflammation. So the more cellular energy you have, the better you feel, the younger you look, the happier you are. Toxins attack and drain your cellular energy more than anything else. And this is things, metals, plastics, pesticides, phthalates, all those wonderful things that are in our modern day society. So we are exposed to these pollutants on an everyday basis, and they start to run our cellular energy down, and that's what we're trying to take back. So even if you want to shed, stubborn fat, or feel calmer, or sleep deeper, you must get these toxins out. So this is a really good way for us to expose if we may be questioning, do I have these toxins? Are they problematic for my body? Because again, the information that we get from this process is invaluable to telling us that we need to look deeper. And some people are much more predisposed to having a problem from these toxins than others. I am absolutely one of them. But the proof is in the pudding when you start to get into fasting, because it doesn't lie. All right, so we are going to let the fast begin. Are we all ready? So ready. We can, Kyla, I'm curious, are you wanting to do water fast?
I want to start tomorrow.
Okay.
So I will do those five days, and then I need like 2 days when I am bringing food again.
Mhm.
Right. Okay.
Okay, you're going to start tomorrow and you're going to go water, right?
Water.
You are absolutely, you can do partial, you can do even the extended intermittent. It's all of the choices are absolutely fine. I was just curious of what you were thinking upstairs.
Yeah, I'm thinking of partial. It's the
Okay.
first time
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I did one with another doctor, but I was eating like just organic chicken and veggies,
Uh-huh.
and I got a headache for 3 days, and it was really bad.
But that you probably weren't prepped, right? Like you didn't do
Yes.
all of this work. So it's going to be
Yeah.
very, very different. And what you could do, and you can play with this. So let's say you start the partial and you do it for 3 days and you're like, I want to do a water for one day. Go for it. Just,
Yes.
yeah, like I have confidence in yourself. And that's something that I like to do is I usually will start partial. For some reason, it just gets me in gear and it starts to kind of get rid of the hunger and stuff like that. And then I usually can sail the rest of the time. But for some reason, it helps me kind of bring into it. If you stay partial the whole time, fabulous. Doesn't absolutely fine. But if you feel this urge that you want to like give one day a try, go for it.
Yes, I will try my best.
Yeah.
And then if I get a headache, like if it's massive, can I get Tylenol or something or
Yeah,
no?
use it. Yeah, use Tylenol and then always go back to electrolytes. If you get headaches, it's usually salt or magnesium.
Okay.
So pull in your LMNT or your Relight or some type of electrolytes, sea salt, something like that usually will break the headache.
Okay.
Yeah. But I think you're far more prepared and you have way more tools.
Yes, I do.
It's so different coming in when you're in a keto adapted state versus trying to just, like, it- I can remember back in the day when I would do cabbage soup diets, like, like, had zero knowledge, and I would be like, and tomorrow I'm doing a cabbage soup after I had had 300 carbohydrates, and then of course you're gonna feel horrible. But yeah, I mean, I did that for weeks on end. It was so terrible, but after a while, it just became a system. But now that when I know what I know, and then I look back and I'm like, oh, I see why it was so terrible in the beginning and why it got better. But it really does, coming from a place where you're keto adapted, you're going to find that going in, it'll be better and making sure that you have the right electrolytes, things that they didn't tell you when you did it the first time or something similar.
Yes.
Yeah, beautiful. Okay. We will, any questions, and if you want to like post numbers or if you're worried about something, reach out and I'm going to share the different podcasts for you guys to listen to during the process. And we can talk about the podcast I'm going to share first, maybe next week if you guys have questions on it or want to geek out. It's only for my selfish reasons. All right, beautiful. I love this week. It's the funnest week and it builds so much confidence and you'll have a lot of aha moments. So misery loves company. So please share, 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 and we'll join together. I made some bone broth and I'm starting tomorrow. So I always
Yeah,
start partial. Yeah.
got it.
Got it. Okay. And if you come to the office this week and I'm a total heinous wench, you'll know why. I'm just kidding. Perfect. All right. Well, my ladies, I will see you next week. And then just remember that you are restoring your glycogen and now you've got enough and you can do all the things. Beautiful.
You,
All
yes.
right. Have a blessed rest of your week, guys, and we'll talk very soon.
Bye.